Hi, everyone. Hi, everybody. It's Fran Pastore. We're going to get started soon. We have about 60 people plus registered for this call tonight. So as soon as we have a few more attendees, we'll get started. And thank you so much to Representative Nuccio for joining us tonight. Thank you. Okay, everybody, let's get started. Welcome to Representative Nuccio and my colleague, Sherry Konwerski. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I look forward to meeting you in person, Representative, and congratulations to you, another woman in the State House. Congratulations in 2021. Thank you so much for your work on behalf of the citizens of Connecticut and your district. And Sherry, thank you so much for joining us. I am Fran Pastore. I am the founder and CEO of the Women's Business Development Council. We have a lot of information to share with you tonight, so I'm going to get started right away. Bear with me here while I activate my slideshow. Okay. From the beginning, and then I have to share my screen. Just bear with me, folks. And I can't seem to share my screen, and I'm not sure why. Ah, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Women's Business Development Council was founded 24 years ago, and our goal is to help women launch and scale businesses so they can become economically self-reliant and create jobs for themselves and others across the state of Connecticut. What we found was that during COVID-19, a lot of our clients, women with micro businesses, were disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 and really didn't have the opportunity to apply for some of the stimulus funding that was out there, and did not have access to the state funding. And I think I just went rogue because I think I was supposed to allow Representative Nuccio to say something. So I'm going to stop right there. And Representative, please welcome everyone. My apologies. I'm running on empty. This is like my 10th Zoom today.
No apologies needed, really. I'll keep it really brief. This is I've met with the Women's Business Development Council a couple of times, and you noticed I'm newly elected, and one of the very first caucuses I joined was the Women's Bipartisan Caucus, because I believe at the end of the day, I don't care what party you're from, we're all women. And our job here is to help each other out and to give a hand when somebody needs a hand, and not to focus on what we are different about, but what we are the same on. So in meeting with you guys, the caucus, it was really important to me to focus on the higher amount of women who were filing for unemployment, and the lesser amount of women who were being able to obtain the loans that we saw, or the grants and the help that we saw from the COVID relief packages. So that was kind of staggering to me. I think it was between 24 to 26% of all of the funding that came in actually went to women-owned businesses. And it was even less for women minority-owned businesses. So the opportunity to sit down with you guys and to try to bring together as many people from my district or anyone else who wanted to come and listen was really important to me. Like I said, I think we need to do as much as we can for strong women representation. We need to talk to each other, we need to hear each other, and we need to look for every way that we can to help each other out. So I'm anxious to see your presentation again, and I truly hope all the people who registered, there's something in here of benefit to you. So please listen, and then at the end we'll have a chance to chat again. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for making it happen. So as Representative Nuccio said, a lot of the stimulus dollars that came into Connecticut, we know, did not go to women-owned businesses. In fact, roughly 75% of the folks that did access the funds were white, and about 80% of them were males. We know that Black women received about 5% of the PPP, and Latina women even less. And so what we decided to do as an organization was really look at how we can help and how we can do more. So this is really what we do on a regular basis. We train and counsel women, help them whether they're in the aspiring stages of a business or whether they are established entrepreneurs. We work with them to become more successful throughout the life of their business. And we do that through education and training, classroom training, one-on-one counseling and coaching and mentoring on just about every topic that you can imagine. We also provide financial education, helping people achieve their personal financial goals, and also using that, setting financial goals as a pathway to establishing their business goals. And most importantly, we try to get capital into the hands of women. We know that it takes a woman an average of 6 attempts at securing a traditional bank loan from a bank, still till this day. We know that women could not access capital in their own names for commercial purposes until 1988. Until 1988, there was a law, all state banking laws said that women could not access a commercial loan without a male cosigner, the age of 16 years or older. So we know how hard it is to get capital in the hands of women, and we know that that difficulty has been exacerbated by COVID-19. So between March and November 2020, we saw an incredible increase, 600% increase in the number of people that came to WBDC seeking our services. Most of those were people that were already in business, trying to survive and not knowing where to turn to. And what we did was we started helping them apply for the PPP, the stimulus through the federal government, and other funding opportunities through the state of Connecticut. We believe that we helped put on the street over $11 million in capital and served more than 5,000 entrepreneurs. We usually see about 800 business owners in any typical year. So it was a very big year for us. We were very busy. So some of our recent initiatives has been around recognizing that there is a racial and gender wealth gap, equity gap that has been highlighted by COVID. So one of our really important initiatives is in partnership with the state of Connecticut is to work with licensed childcare providers from around the state to make sure that the most vulnerable businesses, typically owned by mostly Black and brown women, have a business structure, infrastructure in place that will allow them to apply for other stimulus that comes out that they were not able to access before. Just last month, WBDC provided about 106 childcare providers with $1.6 million in grants of up to $50,000. So if we have any childcare providers on this call tonight, or if you know of any childcare businesses, please have them please connect them to WBDC, and we will get them in our pipeline. One of the things we're really trying to do is position these businesses, childcare and otherwise, for success. We're not looking to just help people survive through the pandemic. We want to help them thrive post-pandemic. And so we developed a program in concert, again, with the state of Connecticut and Lieutenant Governor's Office and our Office of Economic Development, along with financial institutions and other companies throughout Connecticut. We are trying to put grants in the hands of small business owners of up to $10,000. These grant funds can be used to purchase critical business assets or pivot your business so that you can improve your overall cash flow and make sure that you're coming up with a pivot, a change to the current way you do business that is going to help you thrive once this pandemic is behind us. So what does that look like? Grants are up to $10,000 and are awarded to clearly defined projects that have measurable economic impact. We call it the Equity Match Grant Program because applicants are required to provide a 25% match. You're looking for viable businesses where measurable impact can be made. WBDC has been entrusted with these funds, some of which are taxpayer dollars from the state of Connecticut and other federal taxpayer dollars. And we have a fiduciary role to spend this money and be good stewards of this money and put it into the hands of businesses that have an infrastructure in place. So we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like. So for example, if you are a baker and your business is actually thriving right now, and that means that in order for you to increase your revenues, in order for you to hold on to your employees, you need to expand your equipment. So you might need a larger mixer, you might need a refrigerator and a freezer, but you don't have all the money to put into that. WBDC will give you a portion of what you need, up to $10,000, if you can illustrate or demonstrate rather to us that you have 25% to put in, or that you have invested 25% over the course of a period of time. We're very flexible on that. Who qualifies? Women with a focus on minority-owned businesses, a record of sales for a minimum of 2 years, registered in Connecticut and in good standing with the state. You use a financial system. You have established a business banking relationship. And I'm going to ask my colleagues to put in the chat the link to the Equity Match Grant Program. Now, if you're feeling like, oh my God, I need a business plan, I need this, I need that, take a breath. WBDC is here to help. This is what we do. If you don't make it for this round, because we are asking for documentation, If you don't make it for this round, which actually wraps up on February 15th, just a few days from now, do not worry, do not panic. There will be several more rounds of funding that will be coming out. And what you can do between now and then is work with our business advisors like Sherry, so that you can get your paperwork in order so that when that new application is released, you are able to go for it. So that's the equity match grant. That's the childcare piece. And there's more, because right now, as you know, the federal government several weeks ago released a new round of payroll protection program. And last time around, and Sherry will get into this a little bit more, last time around, so many people were left out of the PPP because most small micro businesses simply did not have the infrastructure in place to decipher the application process or the portals at their local bank or whatever reason. Again, that's where WBDC comes in. We will walk you through that and help you get that funding and help you understand, more importantly, how to build an infrastructure so that when we have crises or downturns in the economy, no one says it's going to be perfect, but you are in a better position, in a position of strength, so that you can apply for and hopefully access these funds. So I'm going to turn it over to Sherry now. She's our in-house PPP guru. You'll be in very good hands. My dog is barking. I'm going to let him out and I will be right back.
Thank you, Fran. I appreciate that. Can everyone see my screen at this point? Okay, great. So what I'd like to do is try to get, there we go. What I'd like to do is to explain some terminology as we get into this. For those of you who may have applied for PPP during 2020, you had received a first draw loan. Those of you that received that are now going to, if you are able to apply again, will apply for a second draw loan. Anyone who did not apply last year or who did not get money for PPP in the year 2020, you would now be applying for your first draw now. Now, the reason that I make those distinctions is the rules for a draw one loan versus a draw two loan are slightly different. And I'm going to go through those on the screen in this PowerPoint and let everyone see what these differences are and exactly what you need to do to apply. So again, first draw loans are for people who have not received PPP in the past. Draw two is for people who have received PPP in the past. And I'll explain what a true up loan, that's our term for it, as soon as I get through the first two. So if you are applying for your first draw, your business has to have less than 500 employees. For a second draw loan, it's less than 300 employees. It can be a sole proprietor, an independent contractor, self-employed. And for this new 2021 version of PPP, 501c6 organizations are now eligible to apply. Those are like chambers of commerce. For a draw one, either what you got last year, or if you have not gotten any at all, what you are applying for now, you do not necessarily have to show a business impact. However, if you are applying for draw two, meaning you have already received PPP funding once, you must show that you have had a reduction in gross receipts from in 2020 over what you had for 19. So for instance, if you look at your Q1 19 and your Q1 20, if your 20 is 25% less than your Q1 in 2019, then you would potentially be eligible to receive draw two of PPP. You could do it for Q2 to Q2, Q3 to Q3, Q4 to Q4, or if it is easier, you can do it for the entire year instead of each individual quarter. So some small businesses, it's a little bit more difficult for them to be able to look at their finances over a quarterly basis. You can look at the entire year if that makes it easier. If you had received draw one, you have to have used all of those funds that you had gotten previously before you can apply for draw two. With the first round of PPP, excuse me, first draw, the amount that you are eligible for is 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. Later in this presentation, we're going to talk about how you actually calculate what is 2.5 times. With the second draw, if you are in the restaurant or hospitality industry and you've reported an NAICS code starting with 72 on your tax form, you are eligible for up to 3.5 times your average monthly payroll. Now, what that means is on your tax form, let's say you're an LLC and you file a Schedule C, up at the top in box B, there will be a 6-digit number. If that number begins with a 72, then you have the potential of being eligible for 3.5 times instead of 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. Now, what do we mean by this true up loan? You know, when COVID started, it was confusing. It was, no one knew exactly what was going to happen. And there were some people who, they were uncomfortable after they had gotten their PPP, so they either returned a portion or all of it. Or we were all so quick to apply for it because we were just unsure of what was going to happen that we may not have calculated it properly. So if you were one of those people who did not calculate your PPP for draw 1 in 2020 appropriately, and you were eligible for additional money, you now have the ability to go back and to true up to get that difference. Now, in some cases, you may be better off just applying for draw 2 instead, but that is a situational basis that if you have any questions about that part of it, that one of our business advisors can certainly help you. So how do these compare? And we've got this broken down on the screen between the 2020 PPP, the people who got draw 1 last year, and the people who are applying for draw 1 or draw 2 now. So for last year, the dates that it was available were from April of 2020 to August. This is now available for 2021 from January to a hard stop on March 31st. So you must apply and receive your money before March 31st if you are going to apply. You must be in business as of February 15th of 2020. That has not changed. As I stated on the previous slide, if you are going for your first draw, you had to be less than or equal to 500 employees. If you are going for draw 2, that maximum is 300 employees. For draw 1, whether it was last year or this year, you did not have to prove a reduction in your sales in order to get this money. If you are applying for draw 2, you do have to now prove that you have a 25% reduction in your gross receipts. And again, that is quarter of 20 versus a quarter of 19, or for the entire year. And if you choose to do it for 1 quarter, it must be a matching quarter. So Q2 to Q2. During the first draw of PPP last year, public companies were allowed to apply, as well as a few other things. That is no longer the case. You cannot be a public company. You cannot be a lobbying group. They have added housing co-ops, some news organizations, and the 501c6s, as well as businesses that are in bankruptcy. Previously, the loan amount was a max of 10 million. That has now changed to a max of 2 million. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, you now have the ability, if you are in the restaurant or hospitality industry with that NAICS code, that 6-digit number on your tax return, if it begins with a 72, you then have the ability to multiply it by 3.5 times. There are also some affiliation rules, which is capped at the same number of employees as the eligibility requirements. Now, for last year, you had your 2019 payroll is what was used to calculate your average monthly payroll. Excuse me. With the first draw and second draw for now, for 2021, you have the ability to use your 19 or 20 payroll. In most cases, people will want to use their 19 payroll because it will most likely have been a higher number. Again, this is one of those areas that if you have questions on how to calculate this, we do offer a lot of group counseling as well as individual counseling with a business advisor that might be able to help you to come up with exactly how you need to do that. So let's say you get this money. How can you use it? Well, this applies to both draw 1 and draw 2. Draw 1, whether you got it last year or this year. So at least 60% of the money has to be used for payroll, but you have the ability to use it for other things as well. If your business has a lease or rent or a mortgage, and I stress this is for rent or lease in the name of the business. If you are a home-based business, you cannot use this to pay your personal rent or personal mortgage interest. This is for something in the name of the business. And the same goes true for utilities. Now, if you notice, those top 3 things are listed in black and the other ones are in a slightly different color. The reason is because initially those top 3 things were the only things we were allowed to use the money for. Coming out at December 27th of last year, they've added 3 additional categories that the money can be used for, but still maintaining a minimum of 60% of the money must be for payroll. Those items are your software, your cloud computing, or accounting needs. I like to tell people, since I'm a finance person, that means you can use the money to pay for your QuickBooks Online subscription. The other thing you can use it for is PPE, the personal protective equipment, or the COVID modifications, sort of like the, if your business was required to use the plexiglass shields or things like that in order to continue doing your business, you would be able to potentially use a portion of the money for that. And in certain conditions, you might be able to use it for supplier costs, basically buying the stuff that you need in order to put your product that you are selling out there. But there are some qualifications with that. We do recommend that if at all possible, use the majority of the money, if not all of it, for payroll. And the reason for that is that it makes it much, much easier to get forgiveness. Everything that you want to use this money for, you have to prove that you used it for that purpose. By having it in payroll, it is the easiest way to produce that proof in order to get that forgiveness. In the beginning, we were given 8 weeks to use this money. On June 5th of last year, it was extended to up to 24 weeks. Now they have said you can have a covered period, meaning the period of time with which to use that money can be anywhere from 8 to 24 weeks. When you use the money, you can decide that period of time, that covered period, has ended. Now, how do we calculate all this? So, if you have employees, you would use your 941 forms from either 19 or 20, depending on your situation, to calculate. So you would take the Q1, Q2, 3, and 4 941 forms, and you would add all of those up together. If you have employees and you are contributing to the retirement for those employees, that number that you used in the year that you were using to calculate the payroll would also go in there. The employer portion of the health insurance benefits, the part that the employer pays, not the employee, would also be able to be calculated. If you are a sole proprietor or an LLC and you are paid through your payroll as the owner is determined by your Schedule C, line 31 of your taxes. So if you made, in this example, $80,000, that number would go on there. So looking at this example, if I would add my 941s together for each quarter and come up with a number. I would add my additional payroll costs, my employer retirement contribution and health insurance, and come up with a number. I would then, if I were in Schedule C, I would add the number on line 31 as well. Then you will add this number, and this number to come up with your total payroll for the year. That number is then divided by 12 to come up with a monthly payroll amount. Then if you are anything other than a 72 NAICS code company, you would multiply it by 2.5. If you were going for your draw 2 and you are in a 72, this would be 3.5. You would then come up with what your total eligible number is for PPP. Now, if you have any employees that make over $100,000, or if the number on your Schedule C is greater than $100,000, you have to max that out at 100. You are not allowed to use a higher number than that. But this is how you would calculate what your maximum amount would be. So how do you get prepared for this? You need to know what your Schedule C, if you are a Schedule C filer, for your 2019 or possibly 2020, but in most cases 19 tax return would be. If you are filing as another type of business, you will also need that tax return to apply. You would also need, if you are calculating or if you are going for draw 2, you have to be able to show that loss of gross receipts between 2019 and 2020, and you would need your updated profit and loss statements in order to do that. And then finally, you need to gather those 941s, or your average monthly payroll information. And if you have any trouble in doing this, we are here to help. We offer technical assistance in both group counseling as well as individual one-on-one counseling for PPP, as well as many, many other business topics. I personally hold classes I think now we're doing it every other Thursday at 2 p.m. with the SBA directly. We talk to a lot of people, so we come up with some questions that aren't always written in the rules, and we can get some direct answers directly from the SBA on how to handle those individual situations. We also have the Opportunity Fund that Fran was discussing earlier. We are holding information sessions about the Equity Match Grant at 10 a.m. on Wednesdays as well. And this is how you can register for one of our classes or reach one of us to set up an appointment. Fran?
Thank you. That was great, Sherry. Thank you so much. So I want to open it up for questions. If anybody has anything that they want to ask us, talk about, please, now is the time to ask those questions. And as Sherry said, and I know Joanne, who's our Wizard of Oz behind the scenes for all of our Zoom sessions, has posted links in the chat on where and how and when and where to schedule an appointment, and how to learn more about both Equity Match and the child care program as well. Anybody have any questions? Representative Nuccio, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask yourself?
I don't think I have. I've not really. So the child care business, though, that one I'm actually there's a lot of child care businesses in my 3 towns, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And is there any limitation on that? It just has to be, now does that have to be women owned?
No, licensed Connecticut child care providers.
Okay, so any licensed provider, and they
Yeah.
should contact you to find out if they're not on your list, how they can work with you
Absolutely.
about that grant.
Absolutely.
That's a key
Joanne,
component. You know, child care for women to work is key component. So.
We've talked about it. It's, you can't talk about it enough. It's got to be part of a national infrastructure plan.
And to be honest with you, they've been really our unsung heroes here from the beginning with people in the hospitals having to work and first responders, and that they never closed. So what we can do, and I know that they've had a lot of issues. So this is, I had not heard about that program. So I'm going to make sure that I get
I'm so
that
delighted.
now. Yeah.
I'm going to ask Joanne if she'll put a link to the webpage that describes the child care program in the chat, and you can share it with your constituents. So we have a couple of questions. Sorry, Sherry.
No,
I was just going to say, we have a couple questions.
Okay, great. So I've been in business since 2005, started a new business in June 2020. Is there anything for which you might be eligible? Yes, we are actually going to set aside some of these Equity Match grant funds for startups. So that, we're fleshing that out right now. So I urge you to really check back frequently. I really encourage everyone on this call today, if you have not registered for WBDC's weekly newsletter, that is the way to get news. That newsletter contains everything like the governor just released that you can start registering if you're 65 or older for your vaccine on Thursday. Two, we just changed the rules on who could apply for equity match grant, or startups have a set aside. So I highly, highly recommend get on the newsletter, register with the website. It doesn't cost anything. Do this for yourselves and your business. Go ahead, Sherry.
It also tells you all of the classes that we are doing, both group counseling as well as business topics in general, including things like learning how to do QuickBooks, which is one of the classes that I teach.
Excellent, and she's a real pro. So non-COVID relief financial assistance for upcoming startups. Again, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, one of the things that I know that DECD, the Department of Economic and Community Development, is a big advocate for is a lot of startups that got started or had plans to get started in the middle of the pandemic, they've essentially been shut out. So you really don't know what's going to happen, and you can count on WBDC to do as good a job as possible in pushing out any information that comes our way. If you are a sole proprietor, how do you prove that PPP money is used for payroll? Sherry, take it away.
So if you are a sole proprietor and you have no employees, the 2.5 times your average monthly payroll is based on your Schedule C, line 31. And you are allowed to pay that entire amount to yourself as your own personal payroll as the owner. The recommendation that we make is that you actually write checks to yourself, not money transfers, if at all possible, so that there is a paper trail so that you can show to prove to the bank and the SBA that that money was used to pay you and not someone else, that you can then show them your bank statements that show the canceled check written out to your name. And those checks total to the amount of what you were eligible for the PPP. If you do money transfers instead, it's still okay, but you may have to provide your business and your personal bank statements so that they can show that this money went from business to personal, so that it was proof that it was to you.
Sherry, can you answer Jackie's question here? Have you hosted workshops? Yes. Do you record the workshops for writing your business plan?
I'm sorry, I'm looking for the question. I apologize. I'm trying to scroll down. There's a lot.
She's asking if we record workshops on the business planning. I think we do. I'm just not sure. And if we do, Joanne will pop it in there.
I do not know, Fran, if we do on those, but we can certainly find out. Those are specific classes that are a little bit different, and they're a longer term. It's not a single class. It's a series of classes.
The Wizard of Oz is going to jump in here. We don't actually record the classes on business plan writing. You can certainly sign up for those, but there are multiple, we've been holding weekly information sessions on the equity match grant, and recordings of all of those are on the equity match page on our website. I posted the link, but I will repost that. And certainly, appointments with business advisors can be helpful in getting ready to write your business plan. And we will have we are in the middle of a business plan writing course right now, but we will be restarting that very soon.
And if I'm sorry, Fran. If I may add, in addition to the business plan writing class that we currently call GPS, there is also a class that we hold called Business Concept Clinic. I am actually starting teaching one of those tomorrow. It is a 6-session course, and it starts tomorrow night. I do not know if we still have any availability in that class, but that is the precursor to the business plan writing class. It helps you to define your business idea to take it to that next step of writing that business plan.
I want to share that what's really important here is that, as I said earlier, we're not just looking to put money in people's hands. Our goal is to get people to build a solid infrastructure for their business so that they can weather future storms, right? So when we understand that people get frustrated, oh my God, I need a business plan. We're not looking for, the Bible here. We are looking for, what we're looking for is on our website, we have some samples so that you'll understand what we're looking for. We're not looking for volumes, but if you want to run a successful business, you need to really understand what the most important elements of that is and put yourself on a positive footing and plan for success. And a business plan is going to articulate your, it's not going to articulate your passion, right? That's your job, but it's going to articulate how you are going to show and illustrate that you do know what you are doing and that you are going to use this money for this purpose. I want to also suggest, someone said that on the website it says, have a relationship, you need to have an established relationship with WBDC. Yeah, we would love for everyone to have an established relationship with WBDC. What does that mean? We have a free membership, participate in some of the upcoming services that we're offering. That means that between now and the next round of funding that we're offering, start building your relationship, get to know a business counselor, start becoming engaged in what the organization does, and sign up for the free membership, sign up for the paid membership, but start building that relationship. We're only here to benefit you.
Can I jump in for one quick second
Please.
on that? As a woman, I went back to school, got my MBA in business administration, and I can tell you my business plan at the end of my degree was a 300-page thesis. It was a masterpiece. It was horrid. It was wonderful. I still have it because I haven't given up on it. But what I found is a good business plan will help us, especially women breaking into business with that disadvantage of truly thinking about all of these different things that come in that you don't necessarily think of. So when something happens in your business that you're not expecting, you've got that reliability of going back to what your plan had. And if you don't have something in your plan, I think the resource you guys are offering for the mentorship and the tutoring is amazing because we can't know everything. And having that resource there with us is very helpful. So I'm a big advocate of even a simplified business plan, and then, excuse the dogs. Maybe that grows into a much bigger business plan, but a business plan will help us succeed.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sherry, there's a question for you regarding the pay period for people.
Yep, I saw that. The question is, if we apply for the first draw of PPP now, can we choose the covered period to be in 2020, or does it have to be after the money was received? And the answer is it has to be at least starting the day that you receive the money. There are, in fact, in most cases, it is the day that you get it. There are some flexibility in there, but in most cases, it is the day that you receive the money is when it starts. What you have the determination of is when it is going to end, somewhere between 8 and 24 weeks.
We want to highlight also that we're kind of building the plane as we fly it, right? So on our website, all of these programs, the equity match grant, the childcare, this is all happening so quickly, and there's a lot of information on these pages, on these web pages. So really want to encourage everybody to read very carefully. There are recorded sessions on some workshops that we do. So if you, for example, with regard to the information sessions on how to apply for the equity match grants, there are recorded sessions as well. So check out the recorded sessions. There could be a lot of questions answered. Make your appointment with the WBDC advisor. And like I said, just start getting into the web. Does anybody else have any questions here? All right, I don't see anything. So again, I'll share, www.ctwbdc.org. I know that Joanne has posted that a couple of times. You can make an appointment through the website. You can email Sherry. You can email me. We will get you into the right hands. Thank you so much, Representative Nuccio. It's a pleasure to see you again. Sherry, thank you so much for all you're doing to help women around the state, all of our WBDC clients. We're lucky to have all of us helping all of these women reach their goals. And I'm really proud of my whole team for the hard work that they've done these last 10 or 11 months, really working double duty to get the message out there. So we're here to help.
I think one more question just came in. And I
Yes.
think it's a yes. I think I can answer it for you. The equity match, can it be used for something that I have already purchased or will purchase now? That's the 25, it has to be the 25%, and it can be for something that you have purchased, correct?
Well, okay, I'm not going to weigh in on that 100%, but I will say this, that if it's for something that you've already purchased, that could be used toward your match. Is that, Sherry, would you say that that's fair?
Yes, that's fair. Let's say that you were, I'll just throw an example out, that you were putting a proposal together for a complete new marketing strategy and marketing plan, but that you had already started spending some money on social media or website upgrades. That could potentially be part of the 25% match that you are making, but the money that is coming from the grant would need to be on a future purchase, not on something that had already been done.
But, I will also say this, don't make assumptions. There are about 23 towns that do not require a match for this program. And this is all, again, we're uncovering a lot of things as we're building this. So please don't hesitate to ask the team and get the information that you need to put you on the right path. Sherry, do you want to add anything?
I just wanted to say, Fran, I am so honored to be involved with the WBDC and with all of these amazing legislators who are trying to get the word out to their constituents to really make us all much more successful. And I'm just very happy that I can be there to help all of these people.
And, Representative Nuccio, thank you, Sherry, we're lucky to have you. But just for your information, we are still in the fundraising stage of, continuing to raise money for the grants. So if there are any financial institutions in your district that you might have a relationship with and you can make an entree for WBDC, that would be most welcome. I'm embarking this week on my second tier of financial institutions. So anything that you can do in your district would be really helpful. So we did get another question. Sherry, maybe you can answer that. My example is that I want to purchase a cooler.
I do see the question. I think that the best thing to do on this is probably to take it offline and to have a conversation one-on-one to see if there's any way that we can potentially help.
Agreed. So Sherry, would you put your
I'll send it to her.
Thank you. Email in the chat. Yeah, thank you.
I just want to say thank you to all of you, Sherry, Fran, and the wizard behind the curtain, Joanna. Joanna happens to be my favorite movie ever, but I love it. So I just wanted to thank you guys because all economic issues are women's issues. So
well said.
This is, like I said, very near and dear to my heart. And anytime we can look to help other women out to obtain that security. Just a little side thing. I always told my girls, I have 3 daughters, and I always told them when they were growing up that you should never be with somebody because you need to be with somebody, and you should always be able to stand on your own 2 feet. So anything you do in life, you should always look to be your very first and biggest supporter of yourself. So as women, it is very important that we help each other out, and we do that. I love your organization. I love what you're doing. I would be happy to, if you want to reach out to me, we can look to see if there's any institutions in my area. I will gladly tap them on the shoulder because anything I can do to help more women become successful business owners and be self-sufficient and to be that #1 person that they depend on, I am there for.
Thank you so much. That's great. Sherry, you have more questions coming through.
I was just going to say that. So someone wants to know what the deadline is for applying for the first draw PPP. Whether it is the first draw or the second draw that you are applying for, there is a hard deadline of March 31st. So if you plan to apply, don't wait, do it as soon as possible. You do apply through a financial institution. In most cases, you will go to the bank that you have a current relationship with. If you would like to apply someplace else, there are other banks that are available. There are also what we call fintechs, which are non-traditional bank lenders, PayPal being one, Cabbage, Square. There are a few others that are out there as well, or your traditional banks. There's another question. Are pass-through partnerships allowed to file for the PPP? Yes, there are some specific rules regarding partnerships and how the amount of your PPP is calculated, but yes, there are. You can either set up an appointment with one of us to help you, or there are guidelines on the SBA website that it's how to calculate your maximum PPP based on entity type. If you do a search for that, you should be able to find it. And I think that's it, Fran.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
And
you.
Representative Nuccio, I will be in touch. Thanks so much, Sherry. And
Thanks.
thanks, Joanne. Good night,
Guys,
everyone.
have a good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.